All right, here we are. Take three. Barkmann's corner with Fistful of Lead, bigger battles. The Germans have 1, 2, 3, 4 units. They have strategists, so while the commander's alive, they're going to get 5 cards. Pick the best, discard 1, keep the best. And then the Americans are going to have 5 cards because they're going to have 1, 2, 3 platoons of tanks of 5, a 4th one that has 4, and a command unit, and then pool. I don't know, somehow it equals to 5. But anyway, the commanders are a little different. There's a couple things a little different. The commanders are just going to be units. They're not going to, they're just going to be units, and they take a number of hits based on the number of, models in the stands. The tanks are going to be like an infantry unit, but each tank will take 2 hits instead of 4. I'm going to try this out and see how this works with, whoa, I'm getting all crooked, like, whoa. Anyway, so, we'll see how this works. I didn't want to have 4 tanks. I didn't want to have 17 cards to 4. That wouldn't be cool. So that's what we're going to try here. And after the first turn or a couple turns, I'll come back to you. Bye. All right, here we are at the end of turn 2, beginning of turn 3. Let's see where we stand right now. Barkmann has got 3 wounds on him out of 6. Poole has got 4 out of his 5. The commander's just over here rallying him and not getting involved here. Actually, he should probably... He has to be careful. Scoot over here. I'm saying the tanks have to be within 2 inches of each other. And because see, this is 1 unit, right? And then that's a unit, and then that's a unit. Those guys are on. These guys will come in on turn 3. I think these guys are all going to come over on this side and just blast away and just move across. I'm considering with Barkmann to back him up so he can survive. He's died on turn 4 of my first 2 games with Iron Cross and Fistful of Toes, which is confusing because now I'm playing Fistful of Lead, bigger battles. All right, so that's it, the end of turn 2. I mean, these guys can't do anything. I just give them a card and that's it. So, all right, that's that. We'll talk to you. Bye. End of turn 4 says it all here. He's got 4 damage on him out of 6. These tanks here took out 2 infantry units just with machine gun and blast. And he has a shock on him, so he took 1 dice away from all of his shooting from each shot. Oh yeah, actually I probably should have taken 2 more away. Okay. This commander took 4 shock here. These guys are slowly moving up. I'm not even sure they're going to make the battle. Those 2 guys got stuck on the bocage. Operating as a unit, a platoon of tanks or a group of tanks is working out pretty cool. So like if these guys, so earlier on, these guys, 2 of the guys moved up to fire, so everyone moved at 6 inches. Like I didn't adjust that. I am adjusting their firing though, so maybe the only thing I'm doing is that they're a unit. I don't know. In that I'm activating them with 1 card. Maybe that's the only thing I'm going to do differently. I'm just activating them on 1 card, and they have to be within 2 inches of each other to do that. Otherwise, if someone's further away, they have to do what they can to move up into cohesion. Maybe that's what I should do. So they're separate, they're firing separate, they have their own shock, they have their own damage. And again, remember I gave each guys 2 damage on these units. These guys all have 2, these guys have their normal 5. So, combined they have 10, they have 8. So you can knock out a tank on 2. I don't know, so turn 4, he survived, so he's survived longer than Barkmann has survived. There's fewer tanks, though the infantry never saw any action in the other battle. So because of the ranges and stuff, it's working. So I'm having the most fun right now, early judgment, playing this version. Then I have Fistful of Toes and Iron Cross. Again, Fistful of Lead, bigger battles, is a more of a skirmishy type game, even the bigger battles version, than those other games I just mentioned. So it kind of suits it more. Long talk about 4. Let's see what happens after turn 5 and 6, or 5 or 6, whatever. Okay, some corrections. Into turn 5, I have some corrections to make. He's got 5 damage. So I've been struggling a little bit here, kind of. So what happened was he fired, put more shock on him. He didn't take any more. Did he take some more damage, I think? Where is he sitting? He's sitting at 4. So these guys, they were not eliminated. The commander and that unit, you regroup. So you fall back 2 full moves, or 2 moves. So basically you double speed or whatever, so 10 inches. And then you go down to the number of shock of number of people, and then you really need to rally. So he helped him rally, so he'll need to rally the next turn. Then we ran into a little bit of an issue here. We started talking about a few things. Let's talk about the tanks first. Talking about operating as a unit and them only having 2 hits. The advantage in this particular scenario is that he could fire against these guys and maybe inflict multiple hits, because he's got 5 dice he's throwing. So, and I was thinking it would be all the people under the same. Then I went back and forth. I'm like, well, no, that makes it complicated about who's firing on who. And I think, well, anyway. So with the tanks, what I'm settling on is when they fire on a unit and everyone's in the same save condition. So they're basically, this guy, when he fired his machine guns, were afflicting shock on these 3 tanks because they're all in the same save condition. Not this guy because he's back there. So if there was just one tank out there, he could maybe take care of it. So if this guy were to come up here and fire in these tanks, he'd roll 5 dice, and you just allocate them, closest guy, out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's what I did here. He was firing at him, closest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now they all have 2 shock on them. Remember, they only have 2 damage each, so they go over that, then they're going to each regroup. That's where it gets a little clunky. That's all right. Second thing, the squads. Well, in Flames of War, they do 2 stands. It's a team. In Iron Cross and Fistful of Toads, this was a squad because that works. And here, you're kind of wanting to represent a full squad with 10 guys, unless you play Todd and McMurray way, which each 2 stands, this would be a squad here, and they would take 1 hit each. So the squad has 2 hits, technically, kind of like the tanks. But I feel like if I added 4 stands here and they each took 1 hit to destroy, I feel like that would be way too easy. So I kind of liked having the number of guys, and you would remove guys or use the markers to count. So I really should have started the game with 2 stands here, 2 stands here, and then my command unit. With the Panzerschrecks, it should probably be a separate stand to keep track of that in this case. And you could say they're all together, and maybe these guys have to be either touching or within an inch or something, I don't know, or within 2 inches even, whatever. But then you run into a problem when you get your blast template, right? Well, if these guys were individually based, like 28 mil or even 15 mil that's individually based, you probably wouldn't cover them all because you'd have them an inch apart. There, I don't mind doing an inch apart. It's when your units are combined like this, 7 and 2 inches. Well, I'm gonna have to roll 10 dice and hit that. That makes a blast like super crazy effective. So do you just roll 2 dice, against that? Or is it, I don't know. Because, you center it in between the 2 units. So I'm not totally sure how to go about doing that. Because otherwise that blast is just going to be crazy effective. So I'm not sure how I'm going to play that yet. I guess it's kind of a design in a play test. Really, I won't play things like this very often, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I've already spent 4.5 minutes explaining it. So it's where we are right now. All these guys are back to full health, ready to go. Because, otherwise it's going to take 10 shock to move them out. So I kind of like using the 5 guys on the stand and that shock per each one. If it was a squad, it'd be 10. So maybe I just go with the 10. Then you got to think about the blasting. I guess you could say if it's a blast 5, they roll 5 dice on that unit. And you just divide them up. Maybe I'll do that. Blast 5 means 5 inches and also just 5 dice total. Okay. Anyway, so it's turn 5. We're going into turn 6. It's already lasted way longer than that. Probably going to head out here soon. But I still am enjoying it. Just needs a little bit of tweaking. So to me, where I'm kind of now landing is if it's a skirmish set, like skirmish elite scenarios, I think maybe Bigger Battles is great for that. For each stand as a squad is probably a different rule set, maybe Iron Cross. And then for everything's a platoon, you know, it's Blitzkrieg Commander, Fistful of Toes. So maybe I am going to go to different rule sets. Am I maturing as a gamer? This says it all again. So they lasted 2 turns longer in Fistful of Lead, which again makes me think it's a little bit better set of rules for this scenario than the rules I was using. So turn 6, he bit it. Pretty much damaged by this guy. Kablooey. All these tanks had moved in, so they would have started just wailing on this guy, and that would have been really hard for him to survive. I don't think I ever really resolved how I'm playing this here. I think right now, I will center it on a unit and the blast. These are still going to be squads. Squads with 5 guys each. But you can see they're pretty resilient. They're coming back. This guy's rallying them. They're coming back. They're getting in this cover. All these guys are going to do is sit back here and blast away, though. So that's kind of a disadvantage for these guys. So they either need to sneak around. They're going to have to get out of their shelter and start shooting away. But then what's going to happen is these guys will come on. So they've thinned out their herd. Oh, yeah, the other thing I said is they could move into this building because they have to be a full move away. So for them, 5 inches at the end of the game, which I think is 7 or 8 turns. I have to look at what most scenarios are in the Fistful of Lead. I feel like it's 7. So yeah, or 8. And that's right. I'm not sure these guys can actually do it. So I am going to play this out because, you know, the objective is, you know, we'll just say it's right here in the middle. I'll just mark it with my little finger there. And I could put a marker on it to make it really cool. This little puff of smoke here, a little poofy toofy of smoke, and they have to be, you know, really it's just open area here. Because, you know, it's the house, it's the whole thing. So, yeah. So from this little rectangle set out here. So the Germans have to be 5 inches away from that. I don't know. We'll see if they can pull it off. The problem is these tanks have to go here. It takes a whole move to get past that. So that's 1 turn. And then have to haul ass over here. Same here. They got to move up here. And they have to get, so actually this guy needs to get over here and then rush around here. I don't know if they can do it. It takes a full action. Oh, brother. I mean, none of these guys are even against it. Oh, man. I don't think they can do it. Well, let's see what can happen. This is funny. I had a plan as the German, and I'm playing solo, and I totally forgot it. It is awesome because this is great. So I play solo, right? The Americans got to go first on this wild. Actually, that's not true. They went second. The Germans went first. This guy rallied these guys. Took the shock off. Second turn went to the Americans with that queen. All the shock came off the unit. I am now going, there's 10 total damage on this unit. Or I'm sorry, 8 total damage on this unit. And now there's 6. How much shock do they have? Oh, they're at 5 shock. So there's now, actually, there's 5 total damage left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because this little smoke in the back here means they've got 1 damage on. So anyway, nice. So the Americans went first. They rushed up here, shot at these guys, put some stuff on them. These guys came up to the edge. They couldn't fire because they had to move more than 6 inches. These guys. So the next turn went to Germans. I was going to have these guys run over here into the building so they could secure this objective. I forgot, and I close attacked that tank. I got too greedy. And this is all playing solo. Awesome. I love it. And the Americans jumped over. These guys are stalling. Everyone passed their bog check. We're moving on to turn 8. Let's see what happens. Let's see if I can remember my strategy as the German player. The German squad has failed. They died, or whatever you want to say. But they're all pushed back here. No more damage was taken by these guys. They laid waste to that unit, and then this unit so he's got 4 shock and 4 guys left. Finally, the leader was like, oh yeah, he ran over here, so now he's within 5 inches of the house. And actually, this guy might be within 5 inches too. Maybe not. And then these guys all just moved up. These guys all moved. This guy got on the side of the road, and I'm going to see if a road increases movement. Can't remember. What the Americans really need to do is these guys can move up here and lay waste to the commander, and that'll really help their chances. These guys will all hop over the wall, and these guys will come up, so it'll be interesting to see the cards that come out. So that was turn 8. At the end of turn 8, you roll it, and if a D10, and you add what that results to the last turn played. And if it's 15 or higher, the game is over. Night falls and the battle ends, as it says in the book. So I rolled a 5, so 5 and 8 is 13. So we're still going. Turn 9. Let's see what happens. Bye. Into turn 9 and into game for a couple of reasons. One, night falls and the battle ends. And as the sun is setting, the last Germans pass away with a flurry of bullets and a blast from the 75mm Sherman blasting its way through the hedgerows at this lone guy. So here's how it ended. We had the commander sitting over here. These guys pulled up and just shot the crap out of him, of course, and took him out. They're a small unit. I took that penalty into effect. The only unit left. And so these guys got to go first. So they took advantage of that and knocked him out. And it got rid of, they had a queen that could take away wounds and a 10. So I shuffled a card, rolled a dice, and I took away a card, and it was the 10. So they still had the queen. So they played the queen, rolled the dice. They only had 1 wound, so they didn't really have to do that. And they took all their wounds off. So they had 4 shock, 1 wound. So they were able to move 4 inches. So they're sitting out here in the open again. I thought I'd hidden them. This guy moved up here to the hedge. I said he could see him down the road. I said the machine guns could fire because it was in their front 180. I'd have to check that and kind of make sure. Of course, the turret could see him. Machine guns didn't take him out, but gave him I think the machine guns added a shock, and then the gun just blasted him out and gave them the wounds they needed and wiped them out. Game over. But then I rolled the die and the game ended as well. So they didn't make it to the objective, but the Germans died on the last turn, all of the units. So I'm going to say the Americans won, but barely. So, okay, just initial feelings. This was fun. Okay, I really enjoyed this. Yes, I need to work out when playing a game like this with all these tanks in unit, how to work that out. Because I was kind of like, okay, I'll just combine all the shock, you know, and kind of divvy up the wounds, the damage when that gets divvied out. Well, the shock doesn't work that way because in this tank unit then has 5 shock, for example, so no one can shoot anything. Like you can't shoot their blast gun, you can't shoot their machine guns because they can't shoot. I'm thinking, well, gosh, I mean, when a squad has half their damage, which in this case is 5, so they're at 2 or 3, they can still fire. And I was saying these guys had 10 shock, right? Because they had 10 damage, so they had 10 shock. I'm like, well, then they can't fire. They're ineffective at halfway. That didn't seem quite right. So I said, all right, I'll divvy up the shock, kind of like I divvy up the hits. So, you know, and it was to all the units. So it's almost like a Flames of War thing. I think that worked pretty well. The damage is a little tougher, but not really. I mean, the Shrek divvied out 3 damage, so I went 1, 2, and then 3. And I'm like, I don't know, they're firing it. You know, maybe that may not be a good one, but I was wanting to do that to reflect this guy being able to shoot, but he never had the opportunity to do that shooting because he rolled 5 dice. So it meant he could have taken out a whole. What would have been cool is if he took out a whole platoon. I think that would have been awesome. You know, like bam. Very unlikely, but possible, right? Because I was going to give these guys 2 damage. I could have rolled really high, and that would have been really hard. But besides that, this was really fun to play. So Fistful of Toes, made for the platoon, made for battalion level. Iron Cross, made for company level. Now, and then Fistful of Lead, Bigger Battles, kind of made for this kind of level. 5 against 5 units, 6 against 6 units. So it was awesome. I really had a good time. It felt a little empty in the other games because they're not designed for that, and that's cool. This was really fun. I may be finding my rule set. I think I have found my rule set for this. The skirmish. And Jay's gonna be like, duh, that's what I designed it for. Just shush your mouth, bro. So I may have found it for this level, and I'm pretty pumped. All right, voice is wearing out. It's time for bed. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for watching this super long video. Goodbye.